There it is. No, that's the Open Series. Elite Series. There we are. Well, the stream's up. Chat's up. And the audio is working as it should be. So, hello and welcome everyone to round 9 of the PlayStation Pacific Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. We're back, and this time we're at Suzuka International Racing Course for the Japanese Grand Prix. Constructed in 1962 by a joint effort between the Honda Motor Company and Dutch architect John Hugenholtz, Suzuka held its first ever Grand Prix back in 1987. It's often regarded not only Japan's but also Asia's premier racetrack. The 5.8 kilometer 18-turn course is incredibly fast and flowing. It demands a lot from a driver's skill and focus, especially the S section at the beginning of the course, formed by turns 3 through 7. The inside curbs in this section have a tendency to dramatically unsettle the car, potentially putting them into the race-ending barriers. They also have to face the high-speed Degner curves of turns 8 and 9, spoon curve that is formed by turns 13 and 14, and of course the most infamous turn on the circuit, the flat-out left-hander of 130R. Overtaking opportunities here are limited and few. Drivers will have DRS down the pit straight to try and make moves into turns 1 and 2. They'll have turn 11, Kobayashi Corner, the tight left-hand hairpin that Prezzo is going through right now. And there's also the Casio Triangle, the chicane in the final sector that is formed by turns 16 and 17. Summed up, Suzuka is an old-fashioned brutal racetrack, a proper test of a driver's ability. A track of this kind of stature tends to be incredibly rewarding if you do well, but equally incredibly brutal when you get it all wrong. It'll be interesting to see who gets it right and comes out on top here tonight. But first, a little bit of news from last week. There are only 2 penalties given out, one to Black Moon, who is not racing from the looks of things. He was given a 5-second time penalty for cutting the pit lane entry line, and a 5-second penalty given to Plevs after he made contact with ACW at the hairpin. He was given a 5-second time penalty and 1 penalty point for that. As a result, Plevs was demoted from P4 to P8, and Black Moon was demoted from P5 to P9. In the Drivers' Championship, Jax is still leading the way, but after his disqualification from Austria, the gap is closed quite a bit. By contrast, on 177 points, is only 38 behind our current championship leader. ACW is currently third on 128 points, followed by Plevs on 109, and Hilaires rounds out the top 5 on 85 points. In the Constructors' Championship, Aston Martin are in the lead, closely followed by Alpine. Aston Martin on 249 points, Alpine on 234, only 15 points separating the 2 constructors. McLaren are third on 194, followed by AlphaTauri, Mercedes, Red Bull, Haas, and I failed to capture the rest of the constructors' standings. That was silly of me, wasn't it? See if I can't find that just ever so quickly. If Discord could work, that would be really nice. Yeah. I'll get to that later on. But that's pretty much it in terms of news. We can now focus on qualifying itself. Got a couple of lap times on the board. Currently, Leo is at the top with a 28.8. Followed by Prezzo, then Smokey F1. Contrast has just jumped up to second place with a 1 minute 29.0. Keeg is just starting his flying lap, so we'll take advantage of this. Give you a tour of the circuit through turns 1 and 2. Very tricky complex to get right, but into probably the most demanding part of the circuit, the S's. Turns 3, 4, then into turn 5. Turn 6, it's a bit tighter than the previous corners, brings it down to 4th gear to get the extra rotation. Turn 7, Dunlop curve, a very, very notorious corner. You want to avoid the inside curve as best you can. Through the Degner curves, turns 8 and 9. Then towards the overpass, the crossover point in the circuit. And around turn 10, into the tight hairpin of turn 11. Second gear, doesn't quite hit the apex, he was a bit wide there, but he will get a nice exit. Through turn 12, 200R. Down a hill, then back up just a little bit. Towards Spoon curve, turn 13. Very nice through there. Then through turn 14. Now towards the end of sector 2. Heading towards the circuit's most famous corner, 130R. In these modern Formula 1 cars, it's completely flat out. Then towards the Casio triangle, turn 16. And then 17. Nice and tidy there from Keeg. Around the final corner, DRS open, up to the line. Keeg does a 1 minute 29.375. That's a pretty neat lap time from him. He's 4th quickest at the moment. Couple more drivers on flying laps and through. He's coming towards the end of a flying lap. Just has the chicane and the final corner to negotiate. See drivers hug the inside here at the end of a flying lap, though Enthro doesn't do that. He sets a 31.2 effectively. Now 9th quickest, because I believe Pump 46 has jumped up to P5. Plebs coming through the final sector now. One more corner to negotiate. Opens DRS, crosses the line. Ah, he invalidated, I see. Or not. Whoa. How is he back into... Ah, he's just left the session. Right. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure his minimap wasn't red. I was correct. It's just that almost at that very moment when I rode on board with him, he disconnected from the session. Here's that Kush setting off on a flying lap. Right on board, he's definitely one of the quicker drivers in the Elite Series through turns 1 and 2. 4th gear, doesn't quite hit the apex, but gets a nice exit. Through turn 3, 4, 5th gear. Through turn 5, keeps it in 5th. Into turn 6. Again, keeps it in 5th gear, a bit different from Keeg. Through Dunlop curve, you can see the car really skating about there through the corner. Through the Degner curves. Oh, and a bit scruffy through there as well. It's not a very well hooked up lap. If that will know, there's more time in this. Short shift into 3rd on the exit just to get the traction. Around 200R. Now the Spoon curve. Oh, I missed the first apex. Missed the second one by a little bit too. He could have been a little bit closer to the curb. They really wanted to. But apparently purple in the middle sector. We'll see what the time looks like at the end of the lap. Through the Casio triangle. And around the final corner. Opens DRS, crosses the line. It's pole position for now for Isaac Kush. I reckon there's more time in the lap. There's a bit more time. Particularly after what happened at turn 7. Probably lost a 10th, maybe a 10th and a half, with the car being really unstable through the curve. Hillers, beginning a flying lap. Through turn 3, 4. Ooh. What the? That's very strange. Why is it an outboard? Now it's an onboard. I guess the reason why that went to an outboard shot, I've got no clue. Like, because you're not able to do that from the spectator view. My only guess is that because of these shots that you get, during this sort of... no, I'm not even going to try. I can't bring any logic to that. I've never seen that before, where you ride on board and it's not an onboard shot. That was a chase shot for whatever reason. I wish I had access to those. Those would be really nice, but unfortunately I don't. So that was very strange. Hilles crosses the line, goes third quickest with a 28.9. That's very odd. Haven't seen that before. Again, one of the issues I have with Suzuka is that when the yellow flags do come out, they tend to take up the entire circuit on the minimap. It's really quite irritating. Around 200R, championship leader Jax on a flying lap. With, I think, just under 7 minutes to go. Yeah, just under 7 minutes. Exit spoon curve on the medium tyre as well. Sure, he would like to race on the alternate strategy. He made it work in Pacific Tier 1 earlier in the week. Sure, he'd like to replicate that performance for this race. Comes around the final corner. Up to the line, Jax goes to P3 with a 128.822. Contrast has backed out of a flying lap, it seems. Leo has invalidated. Hilles is on an in lap, pretty sure. BP on an out lap. Let's see here. Pump, I think, is on a flying lap. Gets around the hairpin pretty tidily. I think Plebs has just rejoined the session. Around spoon curve. Fourth gear through turn 14, gently on the throttle. Down towards 130R. Puts it into top gear. Hitting just under 300 kilometers an hour as he goes through the flat out left-hander into the chicane now. And around the final corner, he pulls into pit lane. Keeg has retired from the session. He's crashed out. See if we can't find him. It looks like... oh, we just might. Oh, no. But you can see his dot stationary at the crossover point. Suggests to me that he's lost it at the Degner curves. And he's put it into the wall. BP setting another flying lap with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the session. Down through turns 1 and 2. Brings it down to fourth gear. Chucks it in through turn 2. Really nice through there. Through the S's now. Turns 3, 4. Brings it down to fifth gear. Ooh, that didn't look particularly quick. I think that car was a little bit sideways at the beginning of the S's. Let's find out. As ACW jumps to the top of the table, beating Izzat by 0.03 of a second. Ooh, and Anthro getting out of the way. I guess BP didn't make a mistake there because he's up by a little over a 1/10.5. Just the outboard shot made it look like he made a mistake. Through 200R. Now the spoon curve. Oh, he definitely made a mistake there though. Oh, and into the barrier. Now I can't see any end plate on the ground, so he might not have damage. I say might. He might have a lime green wing. Those are really difficult to pick up as a spectator. And unfortunately, he's running out of time, though I can't tell how much time he's got, because there's a stupid yellow flag indicator covering the timer that hasn't been moved. It really needs to be moved. Is that Kush coming towards the end of the second sector? There is a Aston Martin that's slow. I reckon it's Zach. Yeah, it is. He's run out of fuel, hence why there's all these yellow flags out on circuit. Through the chicane. Fairly tidy there from Izzat. Keeps it narrow. Up to the line. Retakes pole position with a fantastic lap. A 128.251. Can anybody challenge that? And we've got 2.5 minutes left in qualifying. There we are. So I don't think ACW will be able to set another lap. By contrast though, he'll be able to. Coming around the final corner. Claimed his first race win of the season at the Red Bull Ring. Sure he would like another one. And there's not too many better locations to grab a win than here at Suzuka. It's a properly tough circuit. By contrast is negotiating the circuit well. Getting through turn 7. Car's nice and stable, it looks quick. Does the time reflect that? Yes, up by 0.06 of a second, though he needs to improve by about half a second if he wants to take pole. There's a random soft tyre just sitting there, so that's where Keeg ultimately crashed. Around 200R. Heading towards turns 13 and 14, the spoon curve. Very tidy, hitting his marks. Down the hill towards the second sector split. What does the clock say? It says he's up by 0.2. This has to be a magical final sector as Prezzo has crashed out in the S's. So the best he can hope for is 16th. Around the final corner. DRS open up to the line. It's P2 for eye contrast. He was very close. He improved by 0.4, setting a 128.301. Half a tenth of Isaac Kush. Can that yellow flag indicator disappear for like 2 seconds? Thank you. Oh, this is going to be tight for ACW. He might get there, but it's going to be tight. Jax on the soft tyre. Is he going to try and get pole position for himself? As Plebs has been disqualified for driving the wrong way. Where is he? There he is there at the back end of the circuit. Interesting. So perhaps he lost control. Was facing in the wrong direction. Trying to get it pointed back in the right direction, and ultimately the game disqualified him. Ferrari Pro in the way here of Jax. Oh, and he dives off the circuit. Oh, dearie me. That was nasty. And Jax has invalidated. So this time won't count. Leo has backed off. Getting out of the way of the AlphaTauri, that is ACW. Didn't need to do that, but he doesn't know that that's the AI. BP up by 0.3 of a second in the first sector. See their pump getting out of the way. Now, I commentated Formula Endurance, one of the other championships that we do here on Race Spec Esports. And this driver drove a phenomenal race at Monza, winning the Grand Prix, essentially leading almost every single lap. So BP's in really good form, and you can tell by the clock that he's quick. He's up by 0.6 of a second. If he can improve by another 2 or so tenths, you see him vault up towards the front row. DRS open up to the line. It's P2 for BPV8. Just missing out on pole position. Missing out by 43 thousandths of a second. Leo will be coming into the pits. What about Anthro? Anthro's session is done. He's qualified in 13th place, and I believe that is qualifying over. It is Isaac Kush on pole position, setting a 128.251, beating BPV8, who set a 128.294. Very, very close at the top. And then it's only 7 thousandths of a second separating P2 and 3. Really close stuff. This paves way to what looks like to be a very, very competitive and very interesting race. Jack's the only driver inside the top 10 who qualified on the medium tyre. But he's starting P5 on those mediums, which is quite a nice spot to be in, especially if he can keep up with the top 4. There we are, Red Bull on pole position at Japan. If only Red Bull could actually race in Japan before they part ways with Honda, but unfortunately they didn't. But is that course flying the flag well for Honda in Japan? BP in second place, iContrast in third, ACW in fourth, Jack's fifth, Leo sixth, then Hilles, Ferrari Pro, Zach and Keeg rounds out the top 10. We've got Pump, Nick, Anthro, Smokey, Prezzo, Parasite, and players after getting disqualified will start from the back of the field, which is a place where you really don't want to start here at Suzuka. Really tough to pass here. You've got turn 1 and 2. You've got the hairpin of turn 11, and you've got the chicane. But even the hairpin and the chicane, it's really, really tough to pass. And even turn 1 isn't really easy with the assistance of DRS. Quite overcast here at Suzuka as well. See a plentiful amount of cloud cover. In fact, the brightness has been turned up just a little bit because of this. You can see all the colours, like the DHL signage. It's a bit duller because of the brightness. The drivers, they'll be fine-tuning their setups. And for the drivers outside the top 10, they have to try and decide what tyre to start on. Strategy here is either soft medium or medium soft. I don't think the hard tyre is completely rubbish. It's just worse than the mediums and the softs. So you really don't want to use them. But if you get into trouble, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw drivers hop on to the hard tyre. Drivers are setting off on their formation lap. Let's have a look at who's on what tyre. So, top 10. Starting on the tyres they qualified on. All of them on the softs except for Jax and P5 starting on the medium compound. Outside the top 10, we have Pump 46 on medium tyres. Same with Nick in P12. Anthro P13 also on the mediums. Smokey, the only driver outside the top 10 starting on the soft compound tyre. And we have Prezzo, Powersight and Plevs. They make positions 15, 16 and 17. And they're all starting on the medium compound tyre. So we've got 7 drivers on the mediums. We've got 10 drivers on the softs. Almost a 50-50 split, not quite. But, no, this should be interesting to see how this all pans out in terms of strategy. And with the amount of cloud cover we've got, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw rain. I haven't got a weather report, so I'm not exactly sure. But if we do get a bit of wet weather interference, it might spice things up during that period. But ideally, I prefer a dry race. Tends to be a lot more exciting. And the drivers, they enjoy a dry race a hell of a lot more compared to a wet one. Except for maybe the person on pole position, is quite good in the wet. But maybe around a track like this, they would much prefer to drive in the dry conditions. And the leaders, they're making their way back towards the grid. I'm going to get this race started. 27 laps lay in front of us here at Suzuka. It's not easy to do 27 laps here, that's for sure. It'll be quite the test for the drivers tonight to make sure they can get through the race relatively unscathed. Here is the useless camera angle that provides nothing. Except we get a half-decent look at BP's helmet. That's pretty nice, I guess. High contrast, ready and waiting in P3. ACW, maybe he can snag a position or two off the start. But here we are at Suzuka. We got 10 red lights. And it's lights out. And away we go. BP converts well off the line. He has the inside line as well for turn 1. He's going to fight here with Dizat. They're side by side. Heading through turn 2, they're still side by side. But BP gets the nose in front. We have sector 1 yellow flags. That's Anthro spinning out. Through the S's we go. Through turn 5 into turn 6. What a great start from BP. What a horrible start from ACW. From P4 down to P8. That's shocking. Smokey has made a mistake in the S's as well. He's down in 16th place. Through the Degner curves come the leaders. And look at BP already pulling out a margin. Eye contrast is right on the back of Izak Kush, trying to get by. Heading towards the hairpin. Not quite close enough to attack just yet. A big lock up there into the corner for Eye contrast. Trying to push as hard as he can. Leo in 4th place, followed by Ferrari Pro and Gilles. There's GeForce Zach just in the back of shot as well. And the other Aston Martin. Through Spoon Curve. Drivers get through here relatively okay. Down the hill towards 130R. So other than Smokey and Anthro, it's been a fairly nice start. Nothing major occurring. Heading towards the end of the lap now. Through the chicane. Or a bit of action here between Jax and GeForce Zach. Jax hasn't had a great start as well, but you do kind of expect that as he's on the medium tyre. Probably get rid of that for now. We'll bring up the intervals. Here comes Jax, looking down the inside into turn 1. They're side by side through the corner. Zach trying to hold it round the outside. They're side by side on the exit, heading through turn 3. And Zach sort of halves back out, allows Jax to have the position. The Alpine driver claiming 7th place for now. Sector 1 yellow flag. That's Leo spinning out. On the outside of the racetrack, I don't think he's got any damage. He's lost a hell of a lot of time. He's now down in 16th place. It's not looking good for the Williams. In P16 and P17 respectively. Not great at all. Oh, a big bit of understeer there from Anthro as well. Through Spoon Curve, and then down the hill towards the Sector 2 split. It is 0.6 of a second separating the top 2. There is the predicted tyre stop strategy, though I think that's a bit incorrect. That will be a soft medium, not a soft hard. Through the chicane. I imagine drivers will be pitting in about lap maybe 10 through 12 or so. ACW on the back here of GeForce. Zach can't quite find a way past Jax in P6. He's howling the back of Gilles as well. Oh, as Leo has elected to retire from the race. 2 laps in. Through turn 6. This big train of cars having to put up with all the dirty air. It's not nice. Through turn 9. And down towards the hairpin. Jack's looking, but can't quite find a move just yet. There he is. Right on. Oh, he's spinning into the barrier. That's what he's doing. And astonishingly, he is still in the race. With an impact like that, oh, he might get a bit of a slap on the wrist for that. I'm not sure. Yeah, you have to still be quite careful when rejoining the racetrack. Can't just flick spin it onto the racing line while cars are coming through, because you can't trust the ghosting system. But Jax is down in 15th place with front wing damage. going to be a long, long way behind. Through turns 1 and 2 come the leaders. BP still in front, followed by Izzat. Plez overtaking Nick for P9. Through the S's they come. Through turn 6. And turn 7. Whoa, Izzat using all of the curb and then some. Evidently he's pushing hard. Really trying to maximize every millimeter of circuit. The BP just steadily moving further and further away. Gap has increased to almost 1 second. Just steadily chipping away. And we got this big train of cars. We got Ferrari Pro at the front of it. On board here with Hillez. Behind we got G-Force Zach. A little bit further back you've got Keeg in the Mercedes. A little bit further back from that is Plebs in P9 as Smokey gets a 3-second time penalty. Now Hillez being half a second behind. He's going to close up quite a bit as BP sets fastest lap. You can see he's using his battery. Use DRS here to close in that a little bit more. Closes to within 2.5 tenths. Or as they go into turn 2, look at the gap close, but Ferrari Pro gets a fine exit. Oh, and here we go. ACW, G-Force Zach, side by side. ACW gets the position. A good bit of driving there from both of them, in fairness. It's not easy to go side by side through here. Typically, when you see drivers go side by side, one of them ends up into the barrier, but they both get through, and ACW gets the position. Sector 1, yellow flags, that's Pump. He spun off. Ooh, careful, you don't want to drive too far backwards. Prezzo, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Pump rejoins the circuit, but down in 14th place. Got a fair bit of work to do. BP still out in front, still leading. Doing a great job. As I mentioned earlier, there was a 100% race at Monza and he drove superbly. And obviously that form from that race at Monza has continued here at Suzuka. He's driving very well. But he hasn't been able to break away from the two behind. Izzat and Contrast still keeping up. Still applying pressure. Getting into turn 1, there's 1 second separating the top 3. Hillez closing in on Ferrari Pro, can't make a move. There's the useless camera shot as Plebs, with the power of DRS, he overtook Keeg fairly easily there. Smokey has just overtaken Prezzo. Though Prezzo, I think, has made a mistake. He also lost a position to power side, and there was also yellow flags in the first sector. So I reckon he just made a mistake. Jax setting fastest laps than he needs to. He's down in 15th. 21.2 seconds behind P14. Realistically, he needs a safety car to save his race. But even then, being so far down the leaderboard, he's going to find it really tough to get back towards the front. I wouldn't put it past him. If there is a safety car at some point, he will go for it. Still closing in Hillez. I reckon he might be in with a shot of making a move into turn 1. Perhaps Izzat could do the same. He has DRS, he's closing in. Nah, not quite. He'll close in, but he won't be able to overtake just yet. What about Hillez? Down towards turn 1. Getting close. The nose cigar for the McLaren driver. Still in P5. Through the S's. Nice and steady. Still sporting a Casper Ackerman helmet. It's a very cool design, I rather like it. He's hunting for that 4th place. You can see he's saving up a little bit of battery. He's got a bit over 50%, I want to say about maybe 60. Into the hairpin. Now we are closing in towards the pit window. So we might see some drivers come in to put on some fresh tyres. Pump a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings, he's down in 14th. Heading towards 130R. Ferrari Pro driving well in 4th. He's resisted Hilles and ACW behind him. BP into the pits. Oh, so he might be doing a soft hard race. Now the undercut here is pretty powerful. No, those are medium tyres. So he's just pitting in quite early. Oh, good, pit lane glitch. That's great. They still haven't fixed that. And Hilles is finally through into 3rd. But it's certainly not over. Sector 1, yellow flags. G-Force Zach is out. Oh, just past him. There he is there. Wow. How did he end up there? Is that Kush a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings? What a fascinating place he's ended up. Well, that's our 2nd retirement, and astonishingly, no safety car. Oh, hang on. Izzat's just lost a whole heap of time. So something's happened to Izzat while I was trying to find Zach. Look at that gap, 6.5 seconds. He's now just in front of Hilles by 3/10. G-Force Zach leaves the section. Through 130R towards the chicane. Hilles closing in. Eye contrast into the pits. Is that Kush follows. Hilles stays out. ACW into the pits. Set of mediums going on his car. And again, that pit lane glitch is great. Set of mediums going on ACW's car. Where is BP? Here he comes. Gets out in front of Eye Contrast. And by some margin too. The undercut paying off here. Undercut really paying off. He's right behind Nick, and ideally he would like to get by as soon as possible. Oh, and that's going to help BP out. Nick made a mistake at Dunlop Curve. Basically gives up the position to BP. He's got relatively clear area in front of him. A gap of 3.6 seconds to the car in front. By contrast. Now closing in. Hilles a 3-second time penalty. Getting that at Spoon Curve. You can see both orange dots exiting Spoon Curve. Keeg a 3-second time penalty next to his name. He got it at Spoon as well. By contrast now onto the back of Nick. Using up his battery. You can see how much he's got. He's almost got a full charge. Stays on the racing line. Nick just slots back in behind Eye Contrast. He understands he's got his own race to run. Ferrari Pro and Hilles into the pits as well. Probably changing onto the medium compound tyre. As BP sets fastest lap. He is flying. Gap between him and Contrast, 1.8 seconds. As that finds himself in P5. He's a long way behind from where they once were. That showed great pace in qualifying. If they can string a few laps together, they might be able to close the gap. ACW P7 now, after the pit stop shuffles. Pump overtaking Prezzo, getting by just before the Degner curves. Pump into P10. Look at this train. We have here Powerside, ACW, Gilles, Ferrari Pro. Here comes ACW. Powerside doesn't put up too much of a fight there. That's only fair. It's on a different strategy. He doesn't really need to fight. Here comes Gilles and Ferrari Pro. The McLaren closing in. Moves on to the racing line. And overtakes the Alpine round the outside, Schumacher style. Here comes Ferrari Pro. Stays behind the Alpine through the chicane. Probably just use DRS and get by. Here he comes. Isaac Kush setting fastest lap in 5th place. Trying to claw his way back towards the front. Through turn 2 comes this group of 3. Led by ACW. At the moment, the gaps are pretty well spread out. Closest battles we have on circuit is this battle for P6, and that is Smokey having a spin at turn 2. Rejoins the racetrack. But a few drivers desperately needing a safety car in order to save their race. Plebs out in front, sporting a black helmet. He typically uses a black helmet. Yeah, that's his normal helmet. Black with the blue highlights across the top. Very nice looking helmet. It contrasts nicely with the papaya orange on the McLaren. He's on quite a bit older tyres compared to BP, and that gap is steadily closing. I'm sure Plebs would really love a safety car towards his pit window, and here comes Izzat to move into 4th place. Provisional P3. The gap between him and I contrast 6.3 seconds. He's got a lot of work to do. Through the S's. Gilles closing in. Ferrari Pro as well. 3 very quick, very competent drivers. Should be quite the interesting battle. And they're all on the same strategy as well. See ACW desperately trying to pull away, but Gilles and Ferrari Pro just staying within DRS range. High contrast has closed to within a second of BP. 9/10 separate provisional P1 and P2. Through 130R. Now through the chicane. Plebs begins lap 13 of 27 here at Suzuka. These fellas are about to do the same. This battle is going to intensify as I contrast as DRS, and he's beginning to close in. You can see BP, that flashing light at the back of the car. It means he's low on battery. High contrast though, still has a little bit in reserve as ACW overtakes Nick for P5. Oh, it's weird how it's sticking with this camera shot. Huh. Through the S's. Nick, he'll be a bit of a roadblock to the cars behind. He's on older tyres. Can't take the corners as quickly on those tyres. See Gilles hounding the back of the Alfa Romeo. Towards the Degner curves. There goes ACW. Here comes this tight group of 3. Oh, and Nick loses control. Gilles avoids. And Nick spins out. no, I can't see any end plate on the ground, so I think he avoided the wall. But he has to be quite careful. His tyres will be quite hot from spinning out, so shouldn't push too hard. Pump on the back of Power Side. These two are genuinely fighting for position. They're on the same strategy. They're both on 12 lap old mediums, but Pump does have a penalty next to his name, which is less than ideal. Ferrari Pro closing in, heading towards the chicane. He's right on the gearbox of Gilles. Backs out of it. Now the Ferrari Pro will get DRS. Closes in. He's running low on battery. 6%, 5%, 4% battery. As Power Side goes into the pits, Ferrari Pro takes 6th place away from Gilles. I'm certain this battle isn't over. But this has really helped ACW out. He doesn't have to worry about the cars behind too much. He's got the gap. He can get his head down and close the gap to the car in front, which is Isaac Kush. Gap 3.2 seconds. Pretty tight stuff here at the front as well. And also Power Side has chucked on the hard tyre. So he's going to try and get a bit of an undercut on Pump. Down towards 130R. Gap is just over 0.6 of a second as they head through the flat out left-hander towards the chicane. Sure, Alex, I can. In terms of the penalty scenario, you see Isaac Kush has 3 seconds, ACW has 5. Not sure how he got that. Probably got it for speeding into the pits. I can check that later on. Gilles on 3 seconds, Pump with 3 seconds, Preza with 6, Keeg with 3, Smokey with 3, and Anthro with 3 as well. So a lot of penalties been given out for accumulating warnings. ACW has a 5-second penalty, which I can only assume is for speeding into the pit lane. Keeg has just overtaken Preza down the pit straight. He's moved into 10th place. Gilles still on the back of Ferrari Pro. This battle is not over. And fortunately for ACW, these two haven't been able to close up on him in 5th place. And even better news, ACW is closing in on Isaac Kush. In fact, I could probably check now, just ever so quickly. A 5-second time penalty, that won't give us that. Scroll down, see if we can't find it. Yep, speeding into the pits, as I thought. Into the chicane. Gap is less than 4/10. Contrast has been building up pressure. I think he's going to try and get by this time around. On lap 16 of 27, he pulls out of the slipstream, looking around the long way. Commits to the outside line of turn 1. He goes wide a little bit, but he gets the move done. He's into 2nd place, which is the provisional race lead. Out in front, Plebs, still on those old medium tyres. He'll be pitting in soon to go onto the soft tyre. In fact, I reckon he could pit in at the end of this lap. Keep an eye on him. Now BP, can he keep up with high contrast and keep this battle alive? He's showing great pace. Let's see if he still has that pace while following contrast. Through Spoon Curve. Lovely aerial shot here of the circuit. Down towards 130R, the gap is 7/10, says Plebs. There's high contrast and BP. through the chicane. BP will have DRS. He'll close in a little bit down the pit straight, down towards turn 1. Won't be close enough to attack, just close enough to keep up with the Aston Martin, keep applying pressure. Jax has overtaken Powerside for P13 as well. He's done that on the entry to Spoon Curve. Ferrari Pro still hanging on to P6. That gap has closed up between Ferrari Pro and ACW as Keeg and Nick. Oh, hello Nick. You're in the pits. Set of soft tyres at the ready. Nick did the very thing I thought Plez was going to do, and that's Prezzo, who was spun out. Showing the AlphaTauri's lawn mowing capabilities. A multi-purpose vehicle, as it were. Gets back onto the racetrack and gets going again. Hill is still keeping within a second of Ferrari Pro. Doing the best he can. Not afford to make a mistake. BP, he's still keeping up. Doing a great job. Plevs going into the pits. Yes, he is. And he comes. Pulls it up nice and easily. Soft tyres at the ready. On they go. Away he takes off. And away back into the garage go the pit crew. And where will he come out? Here comes Pump. Coming onto the pit straight. Les will get out well in front. So P7. Pretty nice place to be in. Pretty nice indeed. Considering he started from 17th on the grid. And Anthro is out. Crashing out at 200R. And we have a safety car. Oh dear. Plez will be thinking, if only if I did one more lap. If only. Prezzo, a 5-second penalty for speeding. If only I did one more lap. Well, it could be worse for Plebs. It could be worse. Oh, hello, Anthro. There's his car. So I imagine he crashed in a similar fashion to Jax. It's just he was unfortunate enough that the car retired after hitting the barrier. We saw with Jax, he absolutely smashed into the barrier. Yet somehow stayed in the race. I couldn't quite believe it when I saw it. Drivers also had to be very, very careful not to get a drive-through. Really don't want to do that. Not towards this phase of the race, but we're so close to the checkered flag. Into the pits come the leaders. Oh, a bit sneaky there from BP. Ultimately, he's cost himself a little bit of time by doing that. Soft tyres at the ready for contrast. It'll be a similar story for BP. On they go. And away he leaves. Is that on soft tyres? ACW. Oh, we'll have to check up a little bit. So losing a little bit of time there. 5-second penalty being served, so he'll lose a position to Ferrari Pro and perhaps Hillez. Oh, there they go. So he will lose 2 positions because of that 5-second. But now he doesn't have any penalties next to his name. Plebs finds himself in P3, which is still really good. I mean, he could have been leading, but P3 is still great. And he'll be really chuffed with that, I'm sure. Rest of the field, we have Pump and Keeg, the 2 Mercedes-Benzes in P8 and 9. We got Nick on fresh tyres in P10. In fact, he might snag a position if he's lucky. And he is lucky. He does snag an extra position. There's Keeg, still in the pit lane. Prezzo gonna come into the pits here. He's got hard tyres on right now. Don't know why. We'll put on a set of softs here. On they go. 5-second penalty being served. He sped into the pit lane earlier. Ah, that's probably why he chucked on the hard tyre. He got a 5-second penalty for speeding, and he wanted to serve it under safety car. So he selected the hard tyre. So then, he didn't wear out this set of softs for a lap. I reckon that's what he did. And even if it isn't, he can just say that that's what he did. Because that's probably the only fresh set of soft tyres he's got. So, yeah, he did one lap on the hard tyre. Come into the pits to serve the 5-second penalty he got. Then put on the fresh softs for the end of the race. This is going to be a very, very interesting contest for these final few laps of Suzuka with the field bunching up like this. Everyone's effectively on the same tyre as well, except for Smokey and Powerside. They're on mediums in P12 and P13. This has helped out Jax massively with this safety car, but needs to try and move his way up through the field. It is pretty smart if it's intentional. I know Prezzo is a good mate of mine, and on his day, he's a pretty witty guy, so I reckon that's probably what he did. But this is going to be a very, very interesting contest. And hello, programmer. Hope you enjoy the show, the final few laps here. The previous 20 laps have actually been pretty good, so this race has been pretty solid for Suzuka standards. Prediction! Oh god, I'm not a man who likes to predict, but we can take the logical route and say Eye Contrast is in with a pretty good shot. Won last week over at the Red Bull Ring, and he's got track position, which is really what you need here at Suzuka. Really tough to pass, and also because he's out in front, he'll have clear air too, whereas BP, Plebs, they're stuck in the dirty air. So they're going to be suffering through the high-speed bends in the first sector and through the spoon curve. But because of the dangerous nature of the circuit, any one of the drivers remaining can make a mistake through the S's or through the Degner curves and ultimately end up out of the race. Saw with Jax earlier that he lost control of 200R. He ended up in the barrier, and that was it. Well, that's what I thought anyway. Somehow he stayed in the race after hitting the wall like that. Anthro did the same thing, and he's out of the race, so... you know. But in terms of a logical point of view, it's hard to look by contrast. But we'll see what happens here. We're going to get back on the green flag racing soon. Eye Contrast controls the field. Out of the chicane, around the final corner. Here's the useless camera angle that provides nothing. It's lap 21 of 27 here at Suzuka. We have 7 laps to sort this out. Plebs, he's under attack here from Izzat. He tried to look down the inside. Oh, and into the... oh, he keeps it out of the barrier. He goes into the gravel trap, but somehow kept it out of the barrier. Oh my goodness. You can see with the outboard shot, Izzat lost all control of the car. Somehow, Izzat kept it out of the barrier. Somehow. I don't know how, but somehow. And I'm pretty sure Izzat doesn't know how, to be quite honest. Jax on the back of Nick. Jax has been dominating his way through this championship. Last week was the first race weekend where he didn't win. And it's looking like it might be a second week in a row where he doesn't win. But he's in P8. And I'm sure he's planning of carving his way through the field. BP on the back of Eye Contrast. You can see coming through spoon curve. Only 2/10 separating the two. Plebs is under attack as well. He's got Ferrari Pro. You can see them in the background. They're battling each other. And here comes BP. Looking round the outside at 130R. They're side by side through the corner. He has the inside line of the chicane. But Eye Contrast goes deeper. He has the inside line for turn 17, but BP fights back. He has the inside line for the final turn and takes the lead. Eye Contrast slots in behind into the slipstream. He's looking around the outside for turn 1. Commits to it as well. They're side by side heading through turn 2. Contact. And I Contrast retakes the lead. Great stuff from these two. Through the S's. BP staying right on his gearbox. Heading through Dunlop curve. And DRS is enabled. That will really spice things up between these two. That's for sure. Through the Degner curves. Underneath the crossover point. 4/10 separating the top two. Izzat is into the pits. So perhaps he did get wing damage. Oh, I'm pretty sure he kept it out of the wall. Through 200R. Heading towards Spoon Curve. BP still in hot pursuit. Same story for Plebs and Ferrari Pro. The battle for P3. Half a second separating the two. Jack's running wide, but he's made a position. He's into P7. His next target is Hillers in P6. BP closing in. Again, looking around the outside. Oh, contact. Force a little bit off the circuit. I Contrast putting the big squeeze on the Haas driver. They're side by side again. Through the chicane. Around the final corner. BP gets the drive. He's into the lead. DRS is now enabled. It's lap 23 of 27 here at Suzuka. I Contrast is going to try and fight back. Looking around the outside. Around the outside of turn 2. They're side by side on the exit. Oh, well, this is fantastic. Into turn 3. BP hangs on to the position. And now Plez, Ferrari Pro, ACW, they're all in this now. With this squabble at the front, they've slowed themselves down. It's now no longer a two-way fight. It's basically the whole field is in with a chance to win at this stage. But look at BP pulling away. 0.6 of a second between him and I Contrast. Heading towards the hairpin. Coming round the hairpin. The gap shrinks to half a second. And increases again on the exit. Nick and Smokey battling for position. And that's Prezzo, I think, bringing out yellow flags. Through Spoon Curve we go. Tell you what, we could probably get rid of the tyre graphic. We really don't need it. We'll probably need the penalty graphic soon. Key, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Heading down towards 130R. Through the curve they go. Ferrari Pro is closing in. Remember, the drivers will now have DRS available to them. Down and around the final corner come the leaders. They begin lap 24 of 27 here at Suzuka. 4 laps to go. I Contrast will close in with the power of DRS. Won't close in by enough to challenge for the lead. He closes in enough to try and apply pressure onto BP. Nick and Smokey battling for position down in P10. Ferrari Pro still on the back of Plebs, but Plebs remains unmoved. Rest of the field, we've got ACW in P5, Hillez in P6, but he does have a penalty, and Jack's trying to close in. Sector 1, yellow flags. That's a Mercedes. It's Pump. Backs it up into the wall. In the gravel trap at the outside of turn 7. Rejoins the circuit down in 12th place. Prezzo is coming round. Has to be very careful on those tyres. Oh, I said he had to be careful. Unfortunately, he wasn't careful. Nick, Smokey, side by side round the hairpin. A battle for P9. Smokey gets back to position, but I'm so sure Nick is going to fight back. Through Spoon Curve. 3/10 separating these two. Now, get those penalties up, because they're going to be very, very important in determining who finishes where. Prezzo gets a 3-second time penalty, increasing his tally to 9 seconds. Now, Izzat down in 14th place, just copped another 3-second time penalty. Jack sets fastest lap. He's closing in onto the back of Hillez. Not close enough, though, to attack into turn 1. Oh, but he's very deep on the brakes. He wants to try and get by. You can see a top 5 finish right in front of him. Round turn 7 we go. Jack's pushing hard. Will we see a big send from the championship leader into the hairpin? BP still hanging on to the lead out in front. And here comes Jax down the inside, the big send. Gilles just left the door open. He knew it was coming. And through Jax goes into P6. 6.5 tenths separate him and P5 ACW. 7 tenths, the gap between the top two. On high contrast, he's got very few opportunities to try and retake the lead. Coming through the chicane, around the final corner, we got 2 laps to sort this out. Lap 26 and 27. And it's half a second separating the top two. It's about 8 tenths of a second separating the top 3. Plebs is now properly in this fight, and Jax has moved into P5. He's overtaken ACW. That might be the best where he can finish. Unless he can get a move on and claw onto the back of Ferrari Pro. Up towards the Degner curves, half a second. Through turn 8. Then turn 9. Through the brief kink of turn 10 into the hairpin of 11. Then around 200R. Gap still hovering at about half a second. High contrast, he needs to be right on the back of BP if he wants a slingshot by at turn 1. Pump, bringing out yellow flags at turn 9. 4.5 tenths separating the top two, make that 4 tenths. 3.5 tenths as they go through 130R, heading towards the chicane. High contrast will get DRS here. He's right behind. Around the final corner, we begin the final lap of the Japanese Grand Prix. The final 5.8 kilometers of this race. Here comes High Contrast closing in. He's going to look around the outside. Through turn 1 we go. Into turn 2, they're side by side. Through the corner. Heading towards the S's. Turns 3. Then into 4. BP hangs on. Only just so. 1 tenth separating the two. Through turn 6. Oh, a bit of a mistake from Contrast there. He's lost ground. He's lost time. The gap increases to 6 tenths. Through the Degner curves, turns 8 and 9. High Contrast needs to send it. So does BP. Can't be too cautious even with the gap like that. Around 200R for the final time. High Contrast realistically has got one overtaking spot, and that's at the chicane at the end of the circuit. But he needs to be on BP's gearbox heading into that chicane. Half a second. Trying to close in. He's got the slipstream. He's got a bit of battery life. He's going to use all of it. Around 130R. He's closing in. BP defends. Into the chicane we go. They're side by side. And High Contrast retakes the lead, but BP has the inside line for the final turn. Incredible stuff. BP will hang on by just over 1 tenth of a second to claim the win here at Suzuka. Fantastic. What a great bit of driving from both of them, honestly. Fantastic stuff. And players will hang on to a brilliant P3 from starting dead last. 17th to 3rd. He easily gets driver of the day. Jax finishes in P4. He did take that away from Ferrari Pro by 1.5 tenths. And look how close it is between ACW and Ferrari Pro as well. 22 thousandths of a second. And we got Gilles in P7, Keegan P8, Powersight in 9th, Nick rounding out the top 10, followed by Smokey, Prezzo, Pump, and Izzat. After making a mistake at turn 1, We come home in 14th place. It will still score points, but it's not the race weekend Izzat was looking for. What a race. Oh, driver of the day, players. We saw that coming. There we are, chucking out copies of F1 2021 out to the crowd. Claiming the winner's trophy. What a drive, honestly. What an effort from High Contrast to try and get it back. A lot of respect being shown there at the end of the race as well. And players who'd be really happy with third place after getting disqualified in qualifying. I'm sure he wasn't thinking of a podium, but he got it. It was very close to taking the win as well, only 6/10 behind the race winner in the end. What a final lap battle between these two. Superb stuff. Great racing. Oh, fantastic. Jax in 4th place. I'm sure he wasn't thinking that either after crashing out at 200R. He was basically last for a while, but he's come back to finish 4th. Ferrari Pro from P8 to P5. That's a pretty solid drive there. ACW P6. Hilles P7. Key from P10 to P8. Powerside from P16 to 9th. He'll be happy with that too. And Nick rounds out the top 10. Then we have Smokey, Prezzo, Pump, then Izzat. Our retirees, Anthro, Zach, and Leo. That was fun. That was fun. You know, it really just shows you that even those circuits that stereotypically you think it's pretty tough to race around, you can still get pretty good races from them. That was shown today. Even before the safety car period, there were moments in this race where it was pretty good. You know, some good battles, especially towards the front and throughout the midfield as well. It was just really nice to watch. Then the safety car came out and completely changed everything. But the level of action that we saw towards the end there, that was fantastic. Those final few laps, I think it was about 7 laps or so that we had between the safety car restart to the checkered flag, was some of the best racing I've seen in my commentary career. And around a racetrack like Suzuka is a tad bit surprising, but again, I guess it only demonstrates that even those racetracks where you think the racing is poor, every so often you get a brilliant race, and that's what we got tonight. And it's a fantastic way to cap off what has been a pretty good week of racing here on Race Spec Esports. That was superb. I fully enjoyed that, and I hoped everyone watching enjoyed that as well. You want to do driver interviews? I mean, I can. I don't typically do interviews for Elite Series. I tend to reserve them for Pacific Tier. But if you want to do driver interviews with the top 3, I can. That's down to you. Oh. But no, that was fantastic. Oh, that was fantastic. But credit to BP. How about that? And to High Contrast as well. That was a fantastic battle between those two. And some of the battles I've seen, you know, you see a lot of contact between the two. Between BP and High Contrast, it was fairly respectful pretty much all the way through, from what I noticed as well. There was contact here and there, but there was nothing malicious at all. And even through the final chicane, where you tend to see quite a lot of drama. No, they kept it respectful, and they battled hard, and they battled really well. Seems I've been invited to a party, so seems that I am doing driver interviews for this one. So I'll be back in just a moment. Yeah. So you fellas want to do some driver interviews? Righto, I can do that. I'll have to think up some things on the spot. That's alright. Let's see. Rightio. Well, thanks to Mr. Plevs, I've been invited to the party where we have all 3 podium sitters. So thank you very much for that. But tell you what, Plevs, we'll start with you. We'll go from P3, we'll make our way up. That was pretty neat display from you. 17th to 3rd. You must be pretty happy with that, especially around the racetrack like Suzuka.
Yeah, definitely happy with a podium. Not so happy with qualifying. That was far from a neat display.
What happened?
I did my first run, and then like I literally crossed the line. Got to turn 1 on my after I crossed the line, and I got communicating with online services. I crossed my screen, I couldn't see anything, and then just got disconnected.
Right.
So yeah, I just restarted the PlayStation and rejoined, but then there was only like 6 minutes left, so I had 1 run left, and then I was just about to start a lap, so I was pulling into like the entry of the last chicane to start, and I think it was Powerside in Alpine, was finishing a lap, so I had to like jump out of the way really quickly. And it just kind of screwed me up, and then like I tried to start a lap from there, and I spun out into the gravel, so it was a bit of a meme, to be honest. And got myself disqualified for facing the wrong way.
Thumbs up. No, it's all about that strat. You wanted that free choice of tyre. That's what you wanted.
It would have been, yeah. I was happy to get the free choice. I definitely think it's a good track to start on the medium, because you don't get held up by the traffic, and I think that would have benefited me. I'm not sure whether I would have finished 3rd if there wasn't a safety car. It would have been close, I think, because I think I had the other guys covered for pace once I got onto the soft. So I'm not sure, but
I think you were about P7, I think, after the start.
I was coming out P7.
You were still looking at a really solid result considering where you started. So.
Yeah, exactly. Had I stayed out 1 more lap, though,
yeah,
I would
said
have
that.
been in the lead.
If only you had that magical bowler that could tell you what to do. But
yeah, I already stayed out an extra lap to what my strategy was anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to stay out until the other guys caught me up, and then I didn't really want to get slowed down by battling. So yeah, and bit lucky with the safety car, but yeah, it's a bit frustrating as well at the same time, because I had the pace to run with the 2 other boys, as I showed in the last laps there. But anyway, is what it is. I was running 6.6 wings, so it was a real low downforce.
Gee whiz, around here.
Yeah, I went for that straight line speed.
Right.
So yeah, that's how I was able to make up a lot of spots early on, I think.
Just power past them on the straights. Fair enough. No, 6.6. Righto. Okay. Around here, that's definitely something I wouldn't do. Just off my experience of the circuit. But your performance today, Ples, was really, really good. And yes, luck had something to play a part, but luck always has a part to play in these sort of races. So no,
yeah,
I'd say you well and truly deserve that podium place, Ples. You performed really, really well.
Awesome.
But we'll move on to P2, high contrast. That was quite the performance from you today. You were very, very quick in both qualifying and in the race. And you and BP had a spectacular battle, which was fantastic to watch. But just take us through your entire race session, both qualifying and the race itself.
Well, for starters, I'm just waiting for my heart rate to come down a bit. So qualifying was really tight between Isaac Hush, BP, and myself. There's a little bit of a gap, I think, between... Was it Jax behind us?
Yes.
No, it was ACW. No, ACW was up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really tight qualifying session. From that point on, I knew it's going to be very difficult because I honestly thought I put in one of the best laps I've ever done in a qualifying session for a league race before. So when the standards are that high, you know it's going to be very tough for the race. But come race time, the pace of the top three, I was clinging onto the back of the two, BP and Isaac. They were insanely fast. I think DRS just like mildly took the edge off a bit with keeping up with the front runners, but yeah, it was really, really quick pace being set at the front. Isaac Kush made a bit of a mistake, which opened up the door for me to try and push harder on the in-lap for the pits. But BP got that undercut done, and I think it might have been a factor that he was one lap order on the tyres because everyone was so evenly matched. Managed to catch up a 2-second gap. I think it was at one point, which was like I was pretty confident with the cars. The tyre temperatures came up, and I was happy with the balance of the car, and then managed to get past BP. But then the safety car came out. We both made the pit stop, and then that's when I knew it's going to be a straight battle for the finish. Doesn't really matter who has the pace. You got DRS and the opportunity with full battery to make a move. And shout out to Plebs for making up, I think it was like 14 positions to get up to the podium position. But the last few laps, though, were spectacular, not just from a spectator point of view, but just driving, getting respect from another driver when the stakes are so high for a race win and you're pushing that hard is just always very enjoyable. You'd think I'd be more disappointed to finish in second, but I'm actually really happy with how the race went and just had a real enjoyable time.
It certainly sounds like it. And I would be, if I was in your position, I'd be happy with P2 as well. And I mentioned it a bit earlier, I was very, very pleased to see the amount of respect being shown between you two. There was very minimal contact throughout those sort of final lap battles that you two had, and it was an absolute pleasure to watch. But would you say that little mistake at turn 6 cost you?
Where was this? Was
on the final lap?
The final lap. I think trying to make the move put me in an awkward position, and then that's what the mistake come from. But I think regardless, I would have been probably in the same position to try and make the move on BP. But, you know, it's like, should I have gone down the inside? Should I have gone around the outside? Because that chicane, the inside turns to the outside after the second corner, and then it turns to the inside again once you're heading towards the finish line. But like after that, after the chicane finished, I had no battery left to make any kind of run to the line. But I think he had the inside line anyway, and I think he got he placed his car very well. He placed his car very well in Italy as well yesterday, so he's very good at position. He positions his car very well for battling defensively.
Yeah. But no, it was really fantastic to watch you two battle like that. It really was entertaining. But also, you're in the championship fight against Jax. You'll close the gap up by a few more points after this weekend. Looking at some of the races ahead, do you think you could close that gap a little bit more and perhaps challenge for the championship?
Is the next track, is it in championship, like calendar order? Or
Hungaroring, I think it's the next track.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think Jax would be pretty quick around that circuit. I think it'd be tough to beat.
So perhaps damage limitation then? Yeah,
perhaps. But you never know. This is obviously a chink in the armor from his first place form ever since Austria. But he's a very quick driver, and I don't expect him to be finishing off the podium too many times.
But no, thank you very much for answering a few questions, and congratulations on your P2 finish. That was a hell of a drive from you.
Thanks for commentating.
Mate, I just do it for the fun. And watching races like these, it always reminds me why I do this thing. It's always so much fun. But we'll move on to our race winner, BP, mate. I watched your performance at Formula Endurance at Monza, and that was really, really good. And then I watched this here at Suzuka. You found a lot of form of late. You're looking pretty quick.
It was the same podium yesterday as well. Just in different order.
In a different order. How about that? No, that was a superb effort from you, BP. Especially right at the end to hang on when you're side by side with contrast through the chicane. You just managed to hang on at the line. But take us through your whole race, both qualifying and the race itself, because you were this close from getting pole position.
Boys, we can't hear BP on stream. You should share the voice. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
You should activate the voice sharing.
Yeah, you got to go to your party settings and go allow voice share. Is that it?
Allow. Okay, that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we?
Okay. To re-sum it up, yeah, medium lap wasn't good enough. First soft lap, nearly binned it. Third soft lap, pretty good lap, but just same thing again. Just hit too many curbs. Hit like one curb in sector 1, then the final corner out of the chicane. I don't know what I did. I just lost it. I ran over the outside too much and lost about a tenth and a bit. But I was still happy to get P2 because I knew if I get a good start, I had the inside line. And I managed to get a good start. I got a bit of wheel spin, but yeah, I still managed to hang around on the inside of it, so pretty even jump overall. And I was so glad to get the lead because I just didn't want to be stuck in a battle because I had a feeling my straight line was suffering. And yeah, first in, as Contrast said, was just ultra fast, so you just couldn't make an error.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm so glad I didn't get a pen this time. But yeah, it was just super hard. I was always going for a 2-stop because I knew my tyre deck was pretty average.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
My tyre deck was not good.
I don't think you would have got the podium if there wasn't a safety car and you did 2-stop. I think you would have
Possibly, I don't know. But I was on the 2-stop from the get-go, hence my early stop. And I was like, okay, well hopefully everyone reacts to this and goes on the hard tyre early, and I know I can maybe jump at the end.
Oh, no.
But yeah, but the thing is, on the halfway through the medium stint in the middle, I nearly completely lost it. I had a gap and it was sector 1, I think, turn like 3 or 4. Just hit the inside and I was probably like 45-degree angle, pretty much drifting it, and yeah, just I could not gain the gap back to Contrast. And once he got DRS, I just couldn't break it. Like his straight line speed was just insane. I could get sector 1, but just. Yeah, and then he eventually got around me after I made a mistake at the final corner. I was trying to undercut him on lap 18 with the soft, and so the safety car came out, so I was like, oh, well, that's a bugger, but full battery. And after the safety car, it's just when the fireworks started, I was just like, I have to get around him now. So I had to use a slipstream battery as best I could. I nearly drained the entire thing in the 2 or 3 laps.
I think I noticed that. I think I saw a flashing light.
I just knew I had to get past, otherwise I would just be stuck in DRS and just wouldn't be able to get past the straight line. And man, the side-by-side stuff was just insane. Like,
it was.
I was on coming onto the main straight thing the first time we did, I was like, hell yeah. It's like, hell yeah, good stuff. And then I just hit the inside curb, turn one, lost it. It allowed me to get back past, so I had to try again the next lap. And yeah, it was just on, and I eventually got around, and the final lap came along, and it was like I knew he was saving the juice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just trying the best I could, and coming into the final section, I wanted to leave a little bit of juice for the exit of the chicane, but it was probably a bit of a mistake because it probably got too close from what I wanted going in. The straight line speed was insane, and I ran a bit deep into that second last chicane, so I was like, oh shit, but it was hectic, and it was just awesome to be able to race side by side, especially at a track like this, where the curves are like so violent, they'll pick you up. Just to be able to know you can go like side by side and still race on is just fantastic. Like, I was smiling the entire time.
So was I, watching along. But no, that was superb. And that little bit of battery and the inside line for the final turn, that's what gave it to you in the end. And
yeah, I know some contrast chat wasn't happy with it, but
oh, weren't they?
I thought it was fine, but yeah, they'll complain if I don't win.
I see. Well, I suppose that's fair enough.
It was really hard racing. It was really hard racing, but it was all fair, I think. I
think so too. So
I was just praying I didn't put you onto one of the curbs in sector 1. They'll just auto rotate.
Oh, yeah.
That was my biggest fear. I was like, oh shit, because that happened to me in last game, I think.
Yeah,
this series, I tried to overtake and got put on the curb, and I was just like, man, I don't want that to happen. This is fun.
That's why I had to yield a couple of times going through. I think it was turn 2 and turn 3. I was just like, yeah, I'm not touching that thing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair, especially with these curbs.
Yeah, it was just fantastic racing. Like, I put everything I had into like the 2 or 3 laps after the safety car to get around.
But, no, that was a fantastic performance, BP.
Thank you.
Should be very proud of it, and both you, BP and I Contrast, you should be both very proud of this, because to go and battle in some of the places where you did, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of respect between you two to do what you did and get around scot-free,
Yeah, no pain, it's awesome.
You see people go side by side through particularly the S section or 130R or even through the chicane. You tend to get quite a mess through those areas. But you two managed to get through and have a great race. So you both should be very proud of this. So,
yeah, it was a bit of a scary to go around the outside of 130R, but I knew that was really my only shot.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that one.
I just had to try to, I'm putting my balls on the ground, just going around.
Fair enough. And Pledge, you should be happy as well with yours.
Oh, fantastic. Go
from last to third. So, really good driving all around. Yeah. So, that's really good to see. But thank you again to all three of you for a bit of question and answer time. But congratulations again, and congrats, BP, on taking your first win of the Elite Series.
Yeah, I didn't get DQ by the safety car this time. Let's go.
Thumbs up. Big improvement.
I was so upset after that last week.
But I think with everything said and done, we can now wrap up the stream. What a race. What a race. Might not see one of those again at Suzuka for some time, but I'll definitely remember this one. This was a lot of fun. But yeah, we can finally wrap everything up. Tune in on Tuesday night as the Pacific Series starts up, another week of racing. But for the Pacific Elite Series, we'll have to wait until next Sunday. Until then, I've been Lane Everingham. Thank you all so much for watching. And we'll see you for round 10 at the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hope to see you there. Good night.